By now, you've all seen the big news from Sunday night. Juan Soto signed a massive, record-breaking, 15-year, $765 million contract to leave the Yankees for the Mets, and that can escalate to over $800 million. Now, the Yankees made a very competitive offer. They offered him 16 years for $760 million. But looking back, this was always the more likely outcome. Soto and his agent, Scott Boras, said they were going to go wherever the money was the highest, and Steve Cohen said the Mets weren't going to be outbid. I think Yankee fans, myself included, hoped Soto would value his year on the Yankees much more than he clearly did. The organization reportedly thought that if they were close on the money, Soto would choose them. Now that clearly wasn't true. So now we move on. In this video, I'm going to lay out what I think the Yankees should do now. The team has multiple glaring holes that need to be filled this offseason, but if they pull it off, they'll still be the best team in the AL. Now for this exercise, I'm using John Boy's offseason planner, which I've linked below. If you want to try this yourself, you can make a copy of the sheet like I did. Now I've adjusted the things that have changed over the past few weeks since they put this out. So I've non-tendered Mesa and Birdie, they're no longer on the list, and I've given Grisham and Brubaker their new contracts. And of course I've removed Juan Soto. So that leaves us with 22 men signed, at about $219 million against the tax, which leaves us a little bit over $80 million to work with for 2025 if we want to stay under an artificial cap of $300 million. Now looking at things positionally, we see a couple things. Number one is we need infielders. DJ's a bench piece at best now, and Cabrera is a great Swiss Army knife, but also probably belongs on the bench. Volpe will start at short, and Chisholm can move between second, third, or even center field, depending on who we decide to add. Now, assuming that Jazz doesn't play center field, we need another outfielder, and I'd like that to be a center fielder, which is going to let Judge move back to right, and it's going to keep Grisham on the bench. For now, I'm penciling in Jason Dominguez as our starting left fielder. And finally, there's not enough relievers and there's too many starters. Now that shifts a little bit if I bump JT Brubaker over to the bullpen. If he makes the team, that's likely where he's going to end up. But because his major league history is almost entirely as a starter, I've got him listed as a starter. Now in theory, we can shift a guy like Cortez to the bullpen as a long man so we can keep everybody here, but this is the one place that the Yankees have major league depth. Now the first thing I've got Cashman doing is improving that rotation even further and signing Max Fried. Fried and the Yankees met over Zoom last week, and the meeting apparently went really well, kind of surprisingly for both sides. The rumors are now that Fried is likely to sign with either the Yankees or the Red Sox, so I'm saying go get him. He's either the best or second best player left on the market. It's either him or Corbin Burns. As for his contract, I originally at the beginning of the offseason said he was going to sign for $27 or $28 million annually. But given that Blake Snell just signed for more than $36 million annually with the Dodgers, and yeah, there's some deferral money in there, so it's not really exactly 36. But given that's what he got, Fried's going to make a little bit more. Everybody's getting paid kind of a little bit of funny money right now. So I've got Fried at $30 million a year, let's say for 6 years, to make sure that we land him. Following that, I'm going to dump Marcus Stroman in a trade. Now, he's still a serviceable MLB starter, and given the money that guys like Kikuchi, Severino, even Frankie Montas are signing for this offseason, I don't think that $18.5 million for a year of Marcus Stroman is really that crazy. Obviously, last year was a down year, and he is 33, but I think there's still some value there. Now, maybe we get back a faraway prospect, somebody very young, or some international bonus money, or even just a player to be named later that we don't intend to get. But in any case, for this plan, Stroman is gone along with most of his money. So I have us taking on $5 million of his deal to make this an even more palatable trade to whoever acquires him, just because we don't have the roster space to keep him, especially with adding Max Fried. Now, I'm not married to the idea of trading him to this team, but I think the A's are the team that I would look at trading him to. They have said they're looking to increase payroll. They do still need starting pitching, even though they've signed Luis Severino. And given their stadium situation, that they're in a AAA stadium in Sacramento, they're really going to struggle to attract most free agents. So I think Marcus Stroman might actually have some value to them. Next, I'm going to bolster the bullpen. Now, we could fill the last few spots with our AAA guys, or Cody Poteet, Clayton Beeter, Will Warren, that sort of player, but that's a really shaky bullpen already. Luke Weaver's got almost no experience as a closer, and for example, Scott Efros has spent most of his time as a Yankee injured or in the minors, so I want somebody who's got a strong, proven track record to join them. So I'm going to sign Tanner Scott. He's the best reliever on the market. He's somebody the Yankees had interest in as recently as the deadline this year. I had him a month ago signing for 4 years and $15 million annually, so let's bump that up to 16 and make sure he chooses the Yankees. And I'll round out the bullpen for now by bringing back Tim Hill. He's not going to cost too much, so we'll give him $2 million. It's a raise over last year. So now we're going to move to the batters. The first thing we've got to realize, I don't see any way we can make this lineup as good as it would have been with Soto on the team. That's just kind of obvious. The Moneyball meme of recreate him in the aggregate, it just doesn't exist. There's nobody who does what he does. So I'm going to prioritize two things in looking to fill these 3 empty slots in our lineup. Number one is I want lefties, or at least switch hitters. This lineup's already way too righty heavy for Yankee Stadium. And number two, I want players who play good defense. I want guys who aren't going to make the fielding miscues we've come to expect from the Yankees recently. And a third kind of lesser priority, we need somebody to hit leadoff. I don't think Volpe's really that guy, so just one of our 3 batters has got to be somebody experienced hitting at the top of the lineup. I'm filling first base by signing Carlos Santana. He's a good defensive first baseman, he just won a Gold Glove, and he switch hits. And most importantly, because of his age, he's almost 39, you don't need to sign him for more than a year. And he's going to be relatively cheap. He just got paid $5.25 million last year, and he performed well, so he's probably going to get at least a little bit more. So let's say $7.5 million for the year gets it done. And if he declines quickly, if he starts to struggle, then you cut him, you do like we did with Troy Tulowitzki in 2019, and then you call up Spencer Jones or you call up Ben Rice to take over the position. Now, onto the positions that Jazz Chisholm plays, center field's kind of the toughest to fill because there really isn't anybody in free agency who can actually do that job. So instead of free agency, I'm going to the trade market. I'm going to trade for Cody Bellinger. The Cubs are shopping him as we speak, and we can actually afford to take on all of his contract, which not every team can. He bats left-handed, he plays a decent center field, and he can bat near the top of the lineup. And if he doesn't opt out after 2025, he can either stay in the outfield or he can move to first base in 2026. Now, I'm not going to get into what we'd give up for him since I don't really know what that looks like, but at a minimum, we're holding the top prospects and we're not giving up anybody off the Major League roster, unless it's Marcus Stroman. He was pretty good as a Cub. I don't really think they need him. Now that they've signed Matthew Boyd, they kind of have a complete rotation. Again, I think the A's are a much more likely destination for Stroman. But whatever it is, it's minor prospects, and you take on all of Bellinger's contract. So now we need either a second or third baseman, and we've got about $11.5 million remaining. And we've priced ourselves out of signing Alex Bregman or trading for Nolan Arenado, so I'm looking at second base instead of third. So I'm going to the Tampa Bay Rays, and I'm going to ask them for Brandon Lowe. Now, he's set to be their highest paid player in 2025. He's going to make $10.5 million, and he's got a club option for 2026 at $11.5 million, which means he's a likely trade candidate, and he fits right into our budget. Now, he isn't the greatest fielder. He's league average-ish, but he bats lefty, and he's consistently hit at the top of the order in his time in Tampa Bay. And while I'm trading with the Rays, I'm also going to ask for Pete Fairbanks. The Yankees clearly like him. They were in on him at the deadline. And adding him to Scott and Weaver gives you a 3-headed monster, 3 guys who have closed games, and you can really shut down anybody. It'll be the new Run DMC of this team. Now, like with Bellinger, I'm sending prospects. As long as we don't touch Spencer Jones in this deal, I'm happy. I think, kind of anybody else in the system for these 2 very quality Major League players, I'm generally okay giving up. And to make the money and roster space work, I'm also sending them Mark Leiter Jr. And because we've now got 27 men on our 26-man roster, I need to bury either Scott Effross or JT Brubaker in AAA. And that can be an open competition in spring training. For now, I'm going to lean towards giving the roster spot to Scott Effross and keeping JT Brubaker in the minors because he's really a starter, and so it's probably a better use of his talents for him to stay stretched out in AAA. So to recap, here's what I got for next year's roster. Your starting lineup will include Austin Wells, Carlos Santana, Brandon Lowe, Anthony Volpe, Jazz Chisholm, Jason Dominguez, Cody Bellinger, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton. And off the bench we'll have Jose Trevino, DJ LeMahieu, Oswaldo Cabrera, and Trent Grisham. The rotation will consist of Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Heel, and Clark Schmidt. And the bullpen will have Tanner Scott as the closer, Pete Fairbanks and Luke Weaver as his setup men, and Jake Cousins, Tim Hill, Ian Hamilton, Scott Effross, and Nestor Cortez to round out the bullpen. Now, that keeps us just barely under our $300 million number, a little bit over $1 million, which gives us enough wiggle room in case some of these ARB numbers come in a little bit higher than what we were expecting. Alright, so that's my thoughts on what the Yankees should do now, the rest of the offseason, now that they don't have Juan Soto on the table. If you agree or if you disagree, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think the Yankees should do now. If you've made it this far, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. I'm going to have either a trade treat or a fire sale breakdown up in the next couple weeks, so keep your eyes out for that, and I'll see y'all next time.